Good evening. I welcome you to Strange Nexus, your portal to the realms of the strange, spooky, and unexplained. On tonight's episode, a young man's life takes an unexpected turn as he becomes entangled with the seductive Succubus. Initially enchanted by the otherworldly pleasure she bestows, the young man soon realizes the haunting melody of desire comes at an unbearable cost.
Moving into the old Victorian house on the outskirts of town seemed like a stroke of luck. Its historic charm drew me in, and the affordability sealed the deal. Little did I know that the grandeur of my new home hid a dark secret, a secret that would intertwine pleasure and horror in ways I never thought possible. The first night was unremarkable, filled with the usual unpacking and the settling creaks of an old house. But as the clock struck midnight, a subtle shift in the air signaled the beginning of a nocturnal ritual that would both enchant and terrify me. A haunting melody, gentle and alluring, danced through the room. The atmosphere transformed into an intimate symphony, and a soft breeze whispered through the time-worn floorboards. It was then that she appeared, the Succubus. Instead of the expected fear, a strange excitement gripped me as she materialized, a vision of beauty with eyes like ember and hair that seemed to cascade like liquid shadows. Her touch, unlike the expected chill, sent waves of pleasure through my body. The Succubus spoke to me in a voice that resonated with promises of ecstasy. Each night, I eagerly anticipated her visits, indulging in the enchantment that wrapped around me like a silken shroud. In those moments, the haunting melody became a sensual anthem, and I willingly surrendered to the otherworldly pleasure. Days turned into nights, and the Succubus continued her nocturnal rendezvous. My waking hours were filled with a sense of contentment, an afterglow that lingered from the surreal encounters. It felt like a dream, a decadent fantasy that became an integral part of my life. However, as the weeks passed, a subtle unease crept into my consciousness. The pleasure, once untarnished, took on a darker hue. The haunting melody, which initially felt like a serenade, began to echo with an undercurrent of malevolence. The room, once a sanctuary of desire, started to feel oppressive and laden with an unseen weight. It was during one of these nightly visits that the realization struck me. The Succubus, despite the pleasure she bestowed, was extracting something from me. Each caress, every whispered promise, carried a hidden cost that manifested as a growing weariness in my waking hours. The line between pleasure and torment blurred as the Succubus, with her insatiable hunger, drained not only my vitality, but also my very essence. In the midst of ecstasy, I felt a profound emptiness, a void that widened with each passing night. The haunting melody, once a siren's call, now echoed with a haunting lament. Desperation set in as I grappled with the realization that the pleasure I once reveled in came at a profound cost. Friends noticed the change in me, the shadows that clung to my eyes, and the weariness that etched itself onto my face. I became a shell of the person I once was, haunted by the relentless pursuit of pleasure that left me drained and hollow. In a bid to break free from the Succubus's grasp, I sought counsel from various sources: psychologists, spiritual leaders, and friends who sensed the unseen torment that gripped me. Their advice, though well-intentioned, offered no respite. The Succubus, it seemed, was a force beyond the reach of conventional wisdom. As I confronted the realization that my newfound pleasure had become a prison, the Succubus continued her nightly visits with an increased intensity. The once sensual encounters turned into a relentless onslaught, a barrage of pleasure that bordered on agony. It was as if the Succubus, having ensnared me, reveled in the torment that now defined our nocturnal liaisons. Haunted and desperate, I resolved to sever the ties that bound me to the Succubus. Night after night, I resisted the allure of her touch, the seductive promises that whispered through the air. It was a battle of wills, a struggle between the desire for pleasure and the need for liberation. In the quiet hours of the night, as the haunting melody reverberated through the room, I found a reservoir of strength within me. With each act of resistance, the oppressive weight lifted, and the room, once a chamber of both pleasure and torment, became a battleground for my soul. The Succubus, sensing my defiance, intensified her efforts. The once sensual encounters turned into a tempest of desire and agony. a maelstrom that threatened to consume me. But in the midst of this supernatural struggle, I clung to the flicker of realization that the cost of pleasure was too steep, that the succubus's embrace came at the expense of my very being. With a surge of determination, I confronted the succubus head-on. The haunting melody, now a cacophony of discordant notes, reached its zenith. In a blinding flash of light, the succubus recoiled, her ethereal form dissipating into the shadows. The room, once a theater of pleasure and torment, returned to a quiet stillness. In the aftermath of the supernatural ordeal, I found myself liberated but scarred. The haunting melody, though silenced, lingered as a haunting refrain in the recesses of my mind. The room, once a battleground, became a sanctuary once more, but the memories of the pleasure that turned into torment remained etched into the time-worn walls. As I emerged from the shadow of the succubus, I carried with me the lessons learned from the cost of unchecked desire. The old Victorian house, witness to the intertwining of pleasure and horror, stood as a reminder that even the most alluring fantasies can come at a profound cost. The boundary between pleasure and peril, it seemed, was a delicate thread that I had learned to navigate with caution.
This reality never ceases to amaze me. What a tale. Now click subscribe and like this video for more Strange Nexus.